Hey, my name's Steven. Don't trust this man. Where you guys been? So I got contacts. Hold on. This is what I'm going to look like sometimes, some weeks. So just brace yourselves for that. Not every week. Some weeks I'll look like this. Some weeks like that. Some weeks like. When I was younger, back in the 1920s, I had a youth pastor. I don't think I'll say his name. I don't know how people handle that. I'm not going to say his name because I just realized I remembered it. I had a youth pastor named Youth Pastor, and he talked to us one week about conviction, about witnessing and conviction and the Holy Spirit and all this stuff. And his point was that, and I grew up in a Pentecostal church, so it was heavy on like the whatever that is. His point that he was making that Wednesday night youth group, remember that? Was that we should be so full of the Holy Spirit that when people are around us, they just get convicted and want to get saved. In the journey that I've made into adulthood, some of my viewpoints on a lot of those sort of talking points has changed a bit. But let's just assume for a minute that I would receive that teaching and believe those things exactly as he meant to present them, right? That if we could be so full of the Holy Spirit that just being near us could cause people to rethink their decisions and their lives and want to be different or better or saved or whatever. Put that over here. Now over here, there's an article I read in the New York Times a couple weeks ago about a lesbian couple who was looking to live in a retirement community in I don't know where. I want to say Missouri, but that feels unfair because it may not be Missouri, and I feel like then it just gets weird. So it was in a state in America, and this couple, 60s or 70s, two women who were married, wanted to move in together and be near, obviously not just be near each other, but live together. But when I say be near each other, the facility had a nursing home attached, so that if at some point one of them became unable to live without full-time assistance, they could then be near each other. So that's what I mean. They sold their house, rearranged their schedule. They applied. They sort of got in, and then before they're able to move, they got a call from I think the residence director. I think this is right, who asked about their status, relationally speaking, and they said we're wives. This is my wife or whatever. And then they were told they couldn't live there because their cohabitation policy was built on the biblical principle that marriage is between a man and a woman. And my first thought was, well, I won't say my exact first thought, but my first few thoughts were around the idea of, you've got to be kidding me. And then that thought formed into, would Jesus really be proud? And in this case, let me be really clear, so I don't want to be salacious or hyperbolic. This married couple apparently was of means. In other words, they owned a home, they sold the home, they had financial resources, they had recourse. There were other facilities that I think they were able to move into. So I want to be very careful when I say this, that I'm not painting a picture that isn't accurate. They probably, I think they're suing, in fact, but that's not the point of this conversation. I just thought to myself, would Jesus be proud of us? As I say us, because I would include myself with this Christian group only because I think I call myself a Christian, but not with their belief systems. Then it gets weird. That's a whole separate episode. I'm sure I've talked about that before. Anyway, would Jesus be proud if we told two senior citizens that they had to find someplace else to live because of whom they loved? In a worst case scenario, would Jesus be proud if we contributed to two individuals not having a place to be or to be cared for or well-fed or well looked after because they in fact had same-sex attraction? Would Jesus be proud of that? I'm hard-pressed to think that's true. That's kind of where the thought became. And then I thought, wait a minute. What about that youth pastor when he said, what if he was right? What if we could become so full of the love of God, the power of God, and the power of His Spirit, that people just being around us, they were then caused to rethink life decisions. And let's pretend for a minute that I agree with that nursing home and their policy. What if you changed the policy and said, no, you can stay here because you knew secretly that all the Christians living in that community, that the minute that lesbian couple got around all those Christians, they just start to feel all this convicting energy. And they'd realize, oh, we've made a huge mistake and we need to give our lives to the Lord. Now, let me hasten to add, I don't think that's how it works, and I don't think that would need to happen. But if you were a Christian of that particular stripe and of that particular conviction, wouldn't you rather people who didn't live the way you think they should be living be closer to the way that they should be living and see that on a daily basis? This doesn't feel like common sense. But I don't know if common sense is alive at in any real way across our nation at this point. If it is, please, common sense. Will the real common sense please stand up? Here's what I do believe, that we can be full of the love of God. I do believe that we can open ourselves to the love he has for us as made known through Jesus, the Christ of Nazareth. And I do believe the love of God that resides within us can spill out to affect the lives of others. And I think when that happens, whoever the other is will be attracted to Jesus too. Now, I don't think that means that if the other person is gay, they'll stop being gay, because I don't think that's something they need to stop being or doing. But I do think if that other person, the other, is gay, and they've been turned away and rejected and marginalized their whole lives because of whom they loved and how they lived, then if they experience the true love of God through you or through me, they will then begin to believe that they are lovable. And that will change everything. Does anybody still believe that? I do. That's a start. Well, that was good. Slightly overdramatic. I think I overplayed it a bit, but it is true. I do believe it. I do believe. And what I want more than anything else from my life, ultimately beyond all my internal struggles around vocation and calling and purpose and what God has for us in our lives, what I think I truly, truly want more than anything else is for the love of God to be known in and through me. And for people who cross paths with me to be reminded that they're lovable. Not really because of me, but because of the love of God in me and through me. Does that make sense? I don't want the credit for it. It's not about me. Okay, so that's that. Talk soon. It's too good. Listen, there's a really good chance that it, fingers crossed, will be something less than like a year and a half before we speak again. And until whenever that is, though, truly, may you be blessed in all things, and may you be well. Bye.